We're going to be deep diving into some Genesys format explanations and stuff today, which I'm sure most of you probably have heard of the news. We don't want to spend too much time on the rules and stuff, but I did want to talk about these really interesting things that Konami have brought up in their blog posts. This is a very personalized, almost like non-corporate speak type of communication that they've got given the player base here. And it's obviously a breath of fresh air, because normally whenever you read some sort of like press release, advertising marketing from a company, especially of their size, it's just so robotic, it's just so mechanical, and it's not like the most pleasant thing to read through. But what has been interesting here is that there's a lot of things that they've been saying throughout these posts here that kind of you get to see a little bit of the personality at play, and it feels like there's a lot of things that you can read into that maybe they don't normally get to say, because this is clearly something that isn't being introduced across the entire scope of the game. Meaning, you know, Japan, the fortress of Yu-Gi-Oh!, which is where everything and anything needs to be like green flagged, right? So this is something very unique. What is Genesys format? Basically, if you guys have whatever reason missed the news, it's a TCG format where there's no ban list, there's no pendulum monsters, and there's no link monsters. You are not allowed to play links and pendulum. And no ban list sounds crazy. However, the way it works is, you know, fairly simple to kind of understand. There is a point system. Every card has a point attached to it. There's no EMZ as well. So card costs must be under 100 points for your deck list. So Pot of Greed, for example, is 20. You can play 3 copies of Pot of Greed in your deck if you want to, depending on the archetype and stuff. That number is arbitrary and can be changed based on the tournament organizer's choice, based on the community you go to, the locals you play at, whatever tournament you're in. The point cap can be adjusted. So if people want to play with a, which I'm very much looking forward to, all right, you guys better sign up for this weekend's Genesys tournament. We're going to be doing the standard 100 one, but there will be potentially, if this one does well, 0 points card cost. So that's going to be some absolute jank formatting here. Now, the one interesting thing, I'm not going to sit and read all of this because it's all very basic stuff, which most of you have probably become accustomed to with the news and stuff over the last 24 hours because of how crazy things have been. The one thing that's really interesting about this is the fact that they are going to be doing this at a full YCS. The first North American full-on Genesys YCS is coming in 2026, where the main event itself will be Genesys format. Do you see how hard and how much they are pushing this out of the gate? This isn't some little like experimental for fun thing that they're trying out to see if it'll do well or not and maybe test the waters. No, this is a big alternative format project that they are rolling out to see its success. Now, in a world where this thing becomes really popular, in a world where maybe potentially this overtakes the main game, huge cope, massive copium, but there is a world where people are so interested in Genesys that the YCS just has full capacity. Thousands of people try to sign up, and they're just at like a 3,000 player cap with people out the building queuing up to sign up. There's a world where this might even end up becoming bigger than the main game. Massive cope, but like theoretically the potential is there.
Welcome back.
So what I did want to read was like some of the points and stuff that they've talked about here. So why do a point system at all? As an example, Beatrice is a 100 point card. So while it might sound crazy that there's no ban list, there basically is a ban list. Every single good card you can think of will have a massive price point attached to it. Okay? My instant thought was, ooh, what are the tier ratios? Every freaking tier limit monster is like 50. You can play like Rhino Heart and Kit Coloss. That's it. Like, the deck is just unplayable, right? So there is basically a ban list. It's just up to people to play formats and tournaments if they want to play with like 500 point events, 1,000 point events, etc., etc. Might be wondering why we're adding a new style of deck building. After all, FNLs have worked for over 20 years. Let's go over the same ways it makes things different. Now, what I'm about to do is when I read this, you can kind of almost juxtapose this to how they think about ban lists. Because again, the point system, for all intents and purposes, is a ban list, right? Now, you can kind of extrapolate, and I could just be, again, massive coping here, trying to create meaning from nothing. But everything you read here can easily just be applied to a ban list, and you can kind of envision and see just how at least the NA sort of Konami officials sort of envision the ban list for their own game, right? There's no individual card in the game that's so incredibly powerful that can never be allowed. Not even long-time members like Painful Choice. It's not that it's powerful by itself, it's powerful because it lets you get other powerful cards. Well, Painful Choice is sitting at a 95-point cost. You can't really combo it with other power cards in Genesys, but if you really want to play it, you can. It would just take up most of your deck's point budget by itself. Just side point and tangent, Painful Choice, I think, is a card that would, like... What are you going to do? Draw the one-off Painful Choice in Modern? Like, it's just not worth building a deck around, right? Everything good in this type of format is easily going to be, like, you know, extra deck monsters. Cards that you can actually, like, access via engine. Because randomly drawing Pot of Greed is just not worth the point distribution. Specific combos can be priced out. If a multi-card combo results in an undesirable interaction like an FTK... Which, by the way, I think this might be like one of the first ever mentions from an official Konami source using the term FTK. By the way, I don't think I've ever seen an official Konami source use this terminology. Anyway, it can be removed by just pricing the card most responsible at 100 points and other needed components at 1. This puts the combo over the standard 100-point cap, so it can't go in the same deck. Which, as an example, I'm pretty sure they did this with S0, which some of you may or may not remember, but it's a quick effect Xyz monster that just quick effect detaches. Your opponent can't use cards for the rest of the turn or something. So that card is legal, but I believe it's 100 points, and you can't physically make it because the rank ups are all at 1 point. You literally can't do that do that combo. At locals or side events, the tournament organizer can set the point cap to whatever they want. If you want to run a high power tournament with 500, then you can, etc. I'm looking forward to 0. That's going to be the funny ones. With the point cap, there's a real trade-off when designing if you want to play extraordinarily powerful cards like Maxi or Graceful. You can certainly do it, and you can play multiples if you want, but if you're giving up other important tools for your deck in order to function, like the cards that enable turn 1 interactions going second like Ash Blossom, do you really want to spend 50 points per Maxi? Maybe if the rest of your deck is 0, and you're confident the extra cards from it will surely let you win. Or you could spend 51 and get full playsets of Fua and Perulia. This is lower power, but you'll see at least one of those Charmies more often than you would the one Maxi. Another example is you can play 3 copies of Pot of Greed if you want to, but at 30 points each, it will take 90 points of your deck building cost. The choice is yours. More choices to make equals more fun for deck building enthusiasts. Now, this is a really cool system because it's almost like a community... It's not like community ban list, but you yourself as a player decide how you want to build a deck. It's not that Konami tells you how to build a deck, although in some ways they kind of are telling you, just because if they make a cost high enough, then that deck becomes unplayable. Best example is Tier Element, right? 50-point cost Kit-Koloss, 50-point cost Rhino Heart. Unplayable, right? Well, we can play Seamare and Halfness, maybe. But the point is like, by mixing around with the numbers, then you are able to sort of judge for yourself what is worth playing and what isn't worth playing. Now, here's the super interesting part here. What if I create the next great deck? Genesys is the people's format. You, the duelist, will be driving most of the action behind the point cost of cards. We're planning to update regularly, and in general, the cards that don't see as much play will see their costs go down, and cards that get played a lot could see their costs go up. Which already, huge point. This is literally just saying that they are willing and open to redesigning, to rejigging, messing about with the costs of the card, right? So this is going to be something that they will monitor and actively play a role in balancing, hopefully, because at least when it comes to reprints and costs and money and all of the finances that we're all pretty bored of, the main game, ranked, advanced, constructed, whatever you want to call it, that's very much designed around the reprint cycle of the game, etc., etc. Whereas Genesys, I mean, depending on how big it might get, could also be designed around that. However, a lot of these decks will probably be, like, not as, like, brand spanking new, because I would hope that whenever the next Tier 0 deck is released in the TCG, they immediately attach some heavy costs to it, right? So that it isn't just instantly the best deck and it's like a 0-cost deck and it's Tier 0 in Genesys format. Picture this, you've just won your very first Genesys YCS with your own unique strategy you spent a month designing and testing. It should be one of the greatest moments of your duelist career, but a nagging voice at the back of your head says, is my deck about to be costed out of existence? The short answer is no. A singular breakout performance for a new strategy isn't going to immediately lead to all of its key cards winding up with points assigned to them. If the deck gains traction amongst duelists and more players pick it up, and it's stuffing the top tables, that's something for us to look at. Certain cards will probably start getting point cost, but that's because everybody's playing them and not because you played them. If it doesn't gain traction, it turns out you're just a genius, the only person who can comprehend the deck build, and you can win again and again with it, then that would colloquially be referred to as a skill issue! Can you believe that, like, this is like a, like, Konami is saying this to a player, like, to you as a person? Like, this is the terminology that they're giving us? Have you ever read something like this from a press release, dude? Literally just saying skill issue. This is what is colloquially referred to as a skill issue on the part of the rest of the competitors. There's no community benefit to stifling individual brilliance. The ones here is on the rest of the world to catch up. So, all of this, I believe you can kind of extrapolate from it and see that this is kind of how they, like, view the ban list, right? Maybe the ban list isn't perfect because there's a lot of moving parts involved with the ban list and approvals and all that kind of, you know, corporate red tape that is involved in a bureaucratic process, like making a ban list for the most important aspect of their money-making segment of the trading card game in the West. But you can kind of like look at their analysis here and see that, okay, well, just because a deck wins an event doesn't mean it's like the greatest thing ever, we're going to instantly ban it, right? So you can kind of like see there's a parallel there between Genesys format, maybe how they actually address the real Forbidden Limited list. And it's of course, it's always hilarious to see Konami say skill issue of all things. The major exception to this principle is if the deck you've come up with is an FTK or includes an FTK. If the deck you've come up with contains an FTK, that specific combo will be swiftly costed out of the standard 100-point environment, but still available in higher power level tournaments like 2 or 500, allowing players to include a higher concentration of counter cards to fight against it. So this is a crazy, like, statement, just out of the gate, immediately saying, by the way, if you play an FTK, if you do well with an FTK, we will immediately hit it. They're not talking about, like, waiting to see or if there's any skill issue or if your build gains any traction. They are explicitly saying here, if you make an FTK, it's dead. So, I mean, good, to be fair, right? But at the same time, I wonder if any of this philosophy is, you know, inserted into how they build, how they design the main game's Forbidden Limited list. Not gonna lie, I appreciate the new era of communication. This is exactly what I think is going on here. This is like communication on a level we've never had before. This is like words and things being said to us as players that there's been more communication in the last day than Konami has given in like 15 years. It's insane. So again, massive cope and stuff, but this I feel like is just something that you can really kind of learn a lot from their vision of how they view the game and how they see and perceive Yu-Gi-Oh! Or at least what they try to is the main thing. This is how they try to present and view the game and see balancing and how they see, you know, keeping track of the meta trends, etc., etc. Like, in theory, this is what they probably want to do with the main TCG. But we'll have to get it with Genesys for now, because it seems like Genesys is a little bit more of a hands-off approach that I guess that they're allowed to work with. So this is just kind of like, you know, what's the word? Advertising for how you can actually play. Basically, TLDR, you can just go to any locals and play this now. Like, starting this week. You can literally just go to a locals and play now. If your locals and your community and everyone around like wants to play Genesys format, your TO can just set up a Genesys format tournament and you can play that now. The first big Genesys events are coming up in a couple of weeks, and there'll be Genesys invitationals at YCSs. So basically the way that this is going to work is, I believe there's some even this weekend, or next weekend, I think, is Anaheim. The way it's going to work is that you can just go to those events, and they basically work like side events. Each Genesys Invitational will have qualifiers on the Saturday with the finals on Sunday. All day long on Saturday, we'll be running 16-player single elims with a 100-point deck building cap. First and second in each flight get an exclusive new stitched edged game mat that uses the old retro dueling field. First and second place in each flight get a spot in the Invitational on Sunday. So if you enter one of these locals at a side event at a YCS on the Saturday, it qualifies you to the Genesys final tournament on the Sunday. First place in each flight gets a card of their choice from the Starlight selection we're bringing along. A briefcase of Starlight rares plucked from prior booster sets. So you could just get a free Starlight if you win one of these. Which is probably a good way to farm, like, money, I guess, at these events. It's insane. The Sunday finals will be one big single elim tournament with a 100-point deck building cost for the players who qualified on the Saturday. The first place gets an authentic 2009 ultra rare SJC prize card Dark End Dragon. Not a reprint, not a replica. A prize card that's been sitting in the vault for 16 years. The vault! Dude, we got confirmation the vault exists! Yo! This is huge. They just confirmed the vault exists! Alright, for those of you who don't know or haven't heard of the mythical legend of the Konami vault, there is a rumor, there is a mythos among players that there is a secret vault that Konami has created, or has, which contains every single Yu-Gi-Oh card ever printed. Even Tyler the Great Warrior and every prize card and every little, like, you know, secret thing that they've ever made. Because they have to, like, keep a duplicate of their one-of-ones that they've made, right? So the vault! You see? I don't know. I heard this rumor on Reddit like 10 years ago. I don't know if it's true. Even Ravedactyl. Isn't the SGC Dragon ultra expensive? Yeah, no, this thing is probably like 10,000 minimum. I'm sure this card is worth like 5 digits at least. Doesn't Jesse have like a Cyberstein SJC and it's worth like 50 grand or something? Right? And that's like Cyberstein. This is one of the I mean, Cyberstein is probably worth more to be fair, but I'm sure this thing is worth like at least 5 digits. 6K last time I saw it cost 2.5. Where are you getting these numbers from? With another copy in the market, the price will plummet to 95. Is there actual numbers on this? Dark End Dragon. Is there one like online being sold? Dark End Dragon SJC. SJCs? Is this one? This is an ultra. Oh, this is an ultra rare. Near mint 5,000 euros. Okay, so one more will probably, in circulation, will definitely... Okay, that's a lot less than I thought it would be. You can probably sell it for like 3,000 or something. These are not real? What do you mean these are not real? Are you telling me that these people are scammers? Like, what do you mean this card is not real? Like, it's... Can't just... Why would someone lie on the internet? That guy has 15,000 sales. It's definitely real. Yeah, exactly. What are you yapping about? All right. The great 2003 Pot of Greed debate. Pot of Greed, 1 or 3. Greed. Wait, what is this? I haven't read this yet. Mystical Space Typhoon was confusing people. Jinzo was burning traps with his laser eye beams. And everywhere I went, the same conversation kept coming up. Should Pot of Greed stay limited? If you haven't a what is he talking about moment, I'll explain. The debate would go like this. Pot of Greed is a very strong card and is the one card you're always happy to draw. Limited to 1 per deck means the game relies more on luck, since whichever player draws it always has an advantage. Therefore, Pot of Greed should be at 3 to reduce the luck element by increasing odds of both players drawing at least 1 copy. This is very fascinating, because even if we ignore the silly little argument about Pot of Greed, like, this is incredible to read because it shows that this is how Konami views limitations, right? Because now one of the most popular ways of addressing decks through the Forbidden Limited list is just limiting all of the consistency. So here they are presenting a dilemma and a paradox that they have clearly thought about multiple times. Is it better to have like something like Wanted at 1? Or is it better to just have it at 3 so that both players have an equal chance of drawing it and are therefore in a more advantageous position, etc., etc., right? There's probably a lot of cards you could list in that spot. So this is really interesting to like show that they look at the Forbidden Limited list through the lens of like the math behind how they limit or semi-limit cards, right? This was before there was a Forbidden Limited list, and the whole thing quieted down after the card was forbidden, but what if it stuck around? Should it have stayed limited or at 1 or gone to 3 to balance out the luck factor? In Yu-Gi-Oh! TCG Genesis, Pot of Greed is back, baby. But what do you think of its 30-point cost? A full set of 3 of this will give you a lot of card drawing capability, and more importantly, it will be consistent, since with 3 copies, you'll see at least one of them in a lot more duels. But it will price out most other power cards for your deck in a 100-point cap tournament. Is drawing a lot of cards good if you're missing out on the power to draw? Or what if you're playing a theme deck where most of your utility cards have point costs? If you have free substitutes for the cards that help other players spending points because they're using generic equivalents, that frees up the budget for you. If you don't think 90 is worth it for a set of Pot of Greed of 3, or maybe when, the cost drops to 20 per copy. How about 10? There's a number somewhere. What is that number for you? This is why Pot of Greed is in the 25 mega packs, along with a few other cards that are forbidden in advanced format like Chaos Ruler, Galaxy Eyes, Safe Return, Meta, Mirage. So if you hear anyone ask, are they going to reprint some of the older cards so we can get them for Genesis? Yes, we've already started. Like I said, dude, Konami have done more communication in the last, like, 3 days than they've done in the history of the game. Like, this is just surreal to me. Like, this is the first time I'm reading this. I have never seen Konami talk to and communicate with their player base as much as they've done right now in these few articles in my entire time playing this game. Like, this is more information I've found out than sitting in, like, their office talking to the people personally. That's no leak, by the way, for legal reasons. I'm just saying, like, I'm learning more than I've ever done in my whole life. It's crazy. Alright, the first Genesis duelists. When you're developing new gameplay, there's only so much you can do by deck building and theory crafting. To see how players really value different classes of cards, we need to run actual internal tournaments. So we gathered up every test subject duelist we've got, myself included, since someone had to run it and do the analysis. Who wrote this? It doesn't say. Yu-Gi-Oh! Site admin. I mean, it's literally just Jerome or Billy, right? It's like, it's one of, like, who? Like, it doesn't say who. It's, why do you say me, but then not have a name? To be fair, it would be very bad if they actually named who it was. Can you imagine just, like, the weirdos on the internet that would take this, like, personally? But for now, it's going to be John Konami. The top duels from internal testing got their decks added into the rivalry pool after some point adjustment based on it. Wasn't Ruggles part of this or something? I think he posted a video, like, yesterday or the day before about this format, so he must have been involved in some way, right? Like, I'm 90% sure there was some like, Doug, we were on stream and DZ just started explaining everything about it, so he knew. Did they do any other, like, official correspondence? I think it was just Ruggles, although his video wasn't sponsored, to be fair. We also added the Morganite Spirit deck, which was from a test tournament run by our colleagues in Japan. It was too cool a concept to leave out. The tournament setting revealed some interesting player behavior. The first thing of note is that our duelists were absolutely taking it seriously. We had one player dedicate himself to trying some of the many FTKs from the history of the advanced format work, but struggled to win duels, let alone matches, even against competition that wasn't playing many defensive cards. Which brings the most important takeaway here. The first instinct of most of our players was to simply drop all defensive cards, Ash, Valor, etc., and spend all their points on consistency cards like Rota. What they learned very quickly is that just because you can't initiate Cold Fusion by fielding 2 effect monsters, doesn't mean it's safe to play with 0 first-turn interaction at all. The number one regret of duelists after the first turn was not putting any Valors or similar cards in their deck. The one player who included Droll in his deck, on the other hand, was extremely glad he did and managed an excellent 3rd place finish. But, bruh, this is a internal R&D pre-alpha testing tournament report. Right? Like, this is crazy. They're just, like, they're just giving us all the info here. Like, what? What am I reading? Also, crazy. Yeah, wow. Shocking. The Konami employee who played Droll in his deck got 3rd place. How? Yeah, weird. A lot of cards have changed cost since that first tournament, which is the whole point of that and the additional testing. But the important takeaway here is that investing all your points in consistency and engine while ignoring defense and removal is a dangerous game. It could work out for you if, for instance, you've come up with a True King Calamity deck that can ignore or suppress the opponent's field going second that sets up the rank 9, but that requires much more involved specialized construction. In the end, it's up to you to decide how to spend your points. We're excited to see where you guys take Genesis. Will your thinking end up like our initial testers, or will the point adjustments we made after that mean you'll skip that phase, and Genesis will move right away into a new card in a different era? We're about to find out. Alright. Well, there you go. Confirming Japan was involved in the development of this is interesting. It's hard to tell if they're talking about, like, actual Japanese employees or, like, maybe the Japanese equivalent of, like, a Ruggles, right? Because I know that, like, some actual players were involved, or if it was, like, If we're talking like actual Billy sitting down to duel against, you know, I don't know, Japan Billy, etc. Dead colleague. Oh, did he specifically did say colleagues, right? Oh. Well, run by our colleagues in Japan. Yeah, okay. So this has not been revealed to be an OCG thing. We don't know if OCG is going to do this. We don't know if they're going to take the helm of this at some point. But so far, it seems very much like a TCG-driven NA type of brainchild. So that's kind of what's going on with Genesys here. But speaking of OCG, let's have a read at some Japanese comments and reactions to this format. It's called deck capacity. Point system? I'm okay with banning pendulums, but they should regulate the points. Today's Yu-Gi-Oh! Can be played without pendulums with more ease than its heyday. Can it? Why are P and L banned? I don't know what that is. Arc and VR are banned? That's I don't know what those are. Isn't it a deck master? I'm looking forward to seeing that implemented. Is it almost no limit? So is it a Tiara game? Is he talking about tier limits? P and L are pendant link? Oh, right, okay. Why are they banned? Because they suck, that's why. What's the number one, like, boomer take that people give? It's like, pendulums ruin the game. That's kind of where everyone dipped, apparently, in Yu-Gi-Oh! Pendulum ruined the game, right? So, yeah, Konami just listened eventually. No pen, no link, no XC or whatever. Yeah, we're gonna play, like, old school Yu-Gi-Oh! You can still build tier, to be fair. Okay, that's a big stretch to say you can build tier. Is EXO already out of the environment, even with no limit? I don't know much about paper, but with these rules, it looks like XC will be rampant. Spoilers, guys. I know it's going to be a bit of a disappointment already, but the reality is Vanquish Soul K9 is, like, absolutely broken. It's like tier 0. You don't need Rock of the Vanquisher. It's unfortunate. But hopefully, with a point adjustment, they'll fix that. I think it would have been fine to ban only Link 1s. Yo, this guy's cooking. Yo, this guy's cooking. But the Monster Zone and Link markers wouldn't work together, so I guess it can't be helped. My brother in Christ, that's not a good argument, though. Like, they are the designers. They've made that problem. They can choose to fix... Anyway, that's besides the point. Considering there's no ban restrictions, 505 points are allocated, which is too much. 505? What is that? I think this is, like, replying to someone. Deck capacity is unpopular, but why is there no limit? This guy just didn't read. Banned cards and skipped cards are basically 100 points. This is just annoying. Is it? Is it annoying? Is it real? Oh, so you want all the banned cards to be legal? Wait, what does this guy want to do? Is it because the rules for pendulums are tedious if there's no link? If there's no link, they'll either make it so you can only summon one, or make it so you can summon all of them like in the 9th series. That's true. They should have banned links and kept pendulum. Pot of Greed is 30, and Angel's Alms is 100. That's graceful, right? Since the point management is so bad, I wonder if they'll do it at the Masado Festival. Oh my god, dude. This is like... I would bet, like, so much that this is not coming to Masado, at least for, like, years. But if it was, dude, oh my god, this would be the best thing ever. I wish they'd just ban or restrict things like this. My brother in Christ, that's the entire point of a point system. There are banned cards that can change the duel with just one card, but most of the time the combo destination is at a cost. Okay? It really started to break down during the XC era, and in the end, people just started placing them all together, and then they'd end up thinking, I don't have any space left for fusions and synchros. If this were introduced in Masado, wouldn't it be a godly game? Yeah, dude! The higher the deck power, like Malice Rise, the harder it is to use powerful cards, and the weaker the theme, the easier it is to use general purpose power cards. Yep. Digital Masado is the one that can take advantage of these point management rules. Dude, spit your game, yes! The XC points seem high, so that doesn't seem to be the case. Yeah, wait till you read the K9 cards. No way. The latest cards have lower points anyway. No different from now. He knows. Just go straight into standard. Rotating cards doesn't suit Yu-Gi-Oh! And even if cards are rotated out of standard, the power inflation doesn't stop, as evidenced by Pokemon cards. Okay. Okay, Japanese Joseph. It's just an old format. The latest cards are still usable, so it's not even nostalgia. Who benefits from this? Are they going to regulate that one? I don't understand it at all, lol. The ban on Pendulum and Link isn't for balance. It's for the old-timers. If they were... If they were banned, it would make it easier to play the old way of playing. I'm not sure if it'll be interesting, but it's normal to think that pendulums and links are unnecessary. Woo! I have 3 copies of each Exodia. How is that normal? You're just an old fogey who can't keep up with the time. Alright, that's a perfect send-off. Alright, thanks everyone for watching. That's the roundup and, you know, general thoughts and reading that I've done of the Genesys thing. What are your thoughts on the Genesys format, etc., etc.? See you guys in the next one. Make sure to sign up to this weekend's tournament. Genesys format. Let's break it together. And let's host the biggest Genesys format tournament online so far. See you guys there.